Let me move to the first box, and that's connection. We sometimes design our systems with the assumption that every student and every goal that you want, that we've taken all of that into consideration, and we assume that you understand the way that we design our website, the way that we've designed our campuses, the way we put up campus signage, all of that. What didn't you understand about our enrollment processes that maybe you were afraid to ask about, that if you had known about would have made your experience of connection a little easier? Yannick?
I didn't know that I could retake my placement test. So when I first took my placement test, I didn't taking my placement test, but I wasn't aware of this, and I didn't study going into my placement test, nothing like that. I just took it, ended up in 2 developmental classes, and if I knew better, I would have retook my test, which I heard is easier the second time around. Definitely, and I would have skipped the SCS class. Learned a lot from it, but definitely would have skipped that class.
Okay. John?
I would have also went with the testing. It was more, though, finding out that there was sample questions. Coming back to school after 25 years was daunting in of itself, just coming and asking questions to come here. And had I known what to expect, once I got in, I was fine, but it was, again, just that apprehension coming up to it.
Bethany?
I knew a lot because my brother and sister both attended here, as I mentioned before, but I'd say the one thing I didn't know a lot about was the honors program. It wasn't advertised a whole lot, and I feel like if I could redo it, I would have enrolled in that if I had known a little bit more about that. So.
Okay. Terrance, you want to add anything to that?
One thing I didn't know too much about was the online registration process. When I first started off at the college, I always just went in, saw an advisor. After I found out the online registration from my friend, because I was too afraid to ask him, it made it a lot easier. That way I could just register for classes a lot sooner instead of waiting for an appointment or showing up.
Jocelyn?
For me, it was the same as Bethany. I didn't know about the honors program. I'd heard about it maybe in passing during my first 2 semesters, but had I known about it before I'd gotten a letter saying that I could enroll in the honors program, I would have tried for it sooner.
So now let's move to the entry piece of the puzzle. And you already started to share some observations about placement testing. So I'm getting the sense that you didn't practice before you took the test.
Yeah, correct.
Did any of you realize what a high-stakes test it was? No. No. What could we do better to help you understand, to help the next generation of students coming through our system to understand the importance of the placement test? John?
One of the things would be not to have it as a peer mentor. The 2 of us have seen the fact that when we bring a new student in and apply, that you have to go through a bunch of pages before you even get there. And maybe that whole point about having the sample questions would be something that's a little more obvious.
Okay. Let me take the next step. Were you surprised, discouraged, or encouraged by your results? Yannick?
I personally felt like I could do much better. So when I got my results, me knowing that I didn't study going into taking this test, I kind of understood that I can do better. But I just took those classes, and they eventually helped me, get my skills back where they needed to be. So I needed the class essentially, but if I knew about the sampling tests that I've seen online, being a peer mentor, I would have definitely taken the time to look over that stuff.
Jocelyn?
My experience was the same as Yannick's, actually. I was disappointed to be placed in English 011 because I love writing. But taking the class showed me where I needed to tighten up technically as a writer, and I'm glad I did it.
Okay. Kathleen, what was your experience like?
Also, having not been in school quite a while, I knew that my math skills were probably pretty low. So I took the test the first time, and did pretty poorly. But they said that if I studied for it, I could take it again. And so I did, and I came back and I passed and was able to be placed in a credited
In the college
class.
level. How do you, and I'm still on the entry piece of this, how do you remain connected with college news? You know, news about changes in placement testing, changes in new courses, new programs. What are your go-to resources for finding out what's new at the college? We always struggle with communicating with students. Yannick?
The website.
And the website, so is that the student portal or is it the front page of the website? Both.
Before I log on to my portal, I mean, it's usually like news or highlights or whatever at the bottom of the screen or the top of the screen, wherever it's located. But once I log on, I go into my portal, I get a lot of information in my student email. I mean, from my classes, my upcoming classes, and me as a paramedic working here, I get a lot of information through my student email.
So you use your student email account,
I do.
and you read it. How often do you read your student email account? Jocelyn?
Once every few days.
Once every few days.
Should do it more.
If we text messaged you, though, you would get it right away, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what we're trying to do is figure out ways to better connect and communicate with students in a more timely way. And we know some students don't use email as... my generation, we use email. I understand that's not cool anymore. I have to figure out a different way to communicate.
Yeah, Hannah had to get me into the... Hannah Schmidt, who is head of the paramedics here, she had to get me into the habit of checking my emails every day. So she sent me an email before I got to work and then asked me about it. And she'd tell if I check my email or not. She got me in the habit of checking it every day. And it's important, you know. I do it at least once or twice a day.
John?
I have mine connected to my regular email.
Okay.
And that's one thing that could be a little bit easier too for new students. But knowing that you can do that makes it easy, so whenever I'm on the computer, I can check.
Bethany?
Yeah, at the beginning, I didn't check it as frequently as I should, and I missed out on quite a couple of opportunities. You know, the dates had passed, and I didn't check it in time. So, having learned that, I check it once or twice a day. So.
Terrance?
I usually check my email fairly regularly because I have it come right into my phone. So whenever I get an email, I just look down and take a little quick glance and go from there.
And Kathleen, you're online probably a lot, so how do you find out about news?
Every day I'm online, and so I just check my email as part of my day.
Okay. All right, let's move to the progress part of the student success framework. And let me ask you about classroom engagement strategies. What strategies have faculty used in classes that you've been part of, online and face-to-face, that have built strong engagement for you, that really help you, that you think are good for you and your learning style? Let me start with Jocelyn.
I think the first day, having everyone introduce themselves and talk a little bit about themselves. I've seen more professors do that over time. And also taking Professor Blum's history class, where he wanted us to write about our opinions on the topics and not just repeat what we read, but to use what we are reading as support for our opinions. That was a new concept to all of us.
Okay, Bethany?
Many of my professors used the think, pair, share concept. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but the professor will present a question, and you'll kind of think about it, silently by yourself, and then you'll pair with a partner or two, and kind of share it with them, kind of discuss it together, and then you'll share it with the class. And I think, for me, that's an excellent strategy.
John?
Going over the syllabus day one. To me, knowing where I stand with my professor and what I can expect out of my professor for that course.
Kathleen?
Well, since I have online classes, most of it is on the discussion board, and yes, most of them have had us introduce ourselves. And then whenever there's questions for each chapter, they will then have us respond to what other students have put on there. And that really makes me feel very connected, because it makes me feel like I'm actually connecting with the students and with the professor.
Yannick?
I've been in a lot of situations of different teaching methods, but the one that really stuck out to me, I don't know if he's in here, but Stephen Barron, he's a psychology teacher, and he found a way to relate everything he taught in class to real life situations. And he kind of made us do the same. You know, the stuff we learned in class, he made us apply it to real life situations. So we really, I can't speak for everyone, but I really understood and really fell in love with psychology because of his teaching method. So I feel like if you can relate what you're teaching to real life situations, the students can connect with you a lot easier.